Hi, I'm Ahava. Today I'm joined by my brilliant friend, Andy Crestodina, who is here to talk to us about all things AI, marketing, all the hot topics that everybody's really interested in right now. Andy, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. Wouldn't have missed this.
It's great to have you. So, one of the things that you're really known for in our field is being incredibly tactical. You write the best articles, give the best workshops, do the best talks on how to think about content, how to produce content, how to create content, how to publish it, how to analyze it with all the best practices. And what I love about what you do more than anything else is you really break it down into steps for people so that they can replicate what you're talking about. But my
Thanks.
question to you is, how does Andy Crestodina be creative? Because the tactical stuff is great and it's really, really important. But how do you take that step back and ask, what does my audience really want and need? And how do I get them there?
You're absolutely right. A lot of my marketing is just basically like a program that was set years ago that we repeat year after year and they perform well and we just keep doing them. But the moments when I try to do big picture thinking and strategic work is when I'm asking like, how can I find a new source of leads or how can I adapt to this new channel? And I do that. And the thinking is usually what can I leverage that I already have? What are my strengths? What are the formats or the channels, the audiences that would be best to connect with here? What am I trying to do? So, for example, earlier this year, I realized that like to be a visible expert is kind of my main goal actually, and to be able to do things live is maybe a bit different. So, launched a LinkedIn live website reviews. Was doing it every week, and it was exhausting. Now it's every month, which is actually quite fine. But that thinking was, what do I have? What can I do? I'm active on LinkedIn, got an audience there. Like what are we good at? Okay, it's gonna be me and Core. I'm gonna look at it from this ways. So the visionary thinking is mostly in developing sort of new programs or systems to run and being very deliberate about what are our current strengths and how can I connect those dots.
You said something really great. When there's something new that comes up, I know that I have to explore, but I've been doing the same things for a long time and I know what works. How do you know when the things you've been doing for a long time aren't working anymore?
Well, if something quits working, you should do it again just to make sure it really did quit working. I heard that. I learned that one from a TV producer.
I love that. That's a great
Nighttime news. Yeah. Oh, this horse is dead. Well, hit it one more time. Uh, so, but it is obvious when today, I think in digital, because things just get quiet. It's like, I remember a day we were redesigning part of our site and it's like, hey, this blog commenting software is kind of tricky. It's kind of bloated. It slows down the site. Should we do it? We're like, no, leave it off. Blog comments are dead. I'm looking at the last 50 articles and people don't comment on company blogs anymore. The conversation moved to LinkedIn. So you got to be ready to stop and to give up and to move because it's a very dynamic category.
I agree with you 100%. I always talk about how digital is like you have a different job every day. If you're not comfortable with that, you shouldn't be in digital marketing because
That's right.
nothing stays the same except that people's attention is short. That's pretty much always been the same and it's getting shorter and shorter.
Hmm.
I know that one of the things that people ask you a lot about and talk to you a lot about is search, the changing behaviors in search. How do you show up in AI overviews? This is pressing on people now that the top of the funnel is kind of disappearing. So a two-parter question. Do you think the top of the funnel is disappearing? And how do you show up in AI overviews?
Well, the declining click-through rates from Google to company websites has been on the decline since 2019. That's because they put in so many SERP features. People also ask boxes, video carousels, featured snippets, and just piles and piles of stuff. The AI overview is like the last nail in that coffin, or rather, the trend continues to slide. But here's the hope. That is mostly for information intent queries, leading visitors to content marketing things like articles. The commercial intent queries still have visit website intent, and if you take a minute to separate these two types of traffic, you'll see that it's not nearly as apocalyptic as you might have thought.
So how would a marketer know how to do that? How to separate those two intent sources of traffic?
Yep. So track the change in traffic from that one specific traffic source, organic, to two different types of pages. Pages that are in your content program, they're all at like /blog or /resources or something like that, and pages that are not to the content program. So search traffic to your service pages is probably far, far less disrupted. Two reasons: Google puts far fewer things in the Google search results pages. And secondly, the visitor's trying to get to a website. They have visit website intent. They're clicking. So that's the person who just had a question never wanted to go to a website anyway. Let's be honest.
Right. I actually think it's what I find really fascinating about this whole top of the funnel conversation and where it's going, in my point of view, is that people are being educated before they're coming to you. So they're kind of
Sure.
doing their evaluation away from your website. But when they're coming to you, and we've seen this with our own clients, they're far more ready to convert. And traffic's always been a vanity metric. Like everybody was
Yep.
killing themselves when they went to their CFOs and showed them traffic, and now they have to explain this precipitous decline. But in terms of showing up in AI overviews, let's say we decide that's another metric that we want to track.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's possible to influence the algorithm?
Absolutely is. There's good reasons why some brands get mentioned much more than others. And there's good research on why that happens. There's a recent piece from Ahrefs that did huge data set and found the correlation, not causation, let's be clear, between a brand getting mentioned in AI overviews and directly within ChatGPT and Copilot and Gemini or whatever, and these various factors. The number one highest correlation was when that brand appears online many times with the associated industry terms nearby. So if it's,
Oh, here comes PR.
right, if it's a PR game, that's the answer. So it is very different. Again, it's sort of like attribution's even harder. There's no such thing as search volume. There's no such thing as rankings. Google is deterministic. AI is probabilistic. It's not set. It's unstable. Change one tiny word and you get a whole different response. So no, that's the new game where links are a search ranking factor in Google. Brand mentions adjacent to relevant industry terms is the visibility factor in AI responses.
Do you think that people are really going to adapt to these search behaviors as fast as Google is changing them?
Change is very slow until it's very sudden. So it won't surprise me if there is suddenly a big move away from traditional search and people just using their voice and their app to get answers directly. Because AI, compared to search, is more private. It's less visually noisy. It's not jammed with ads, at least not yet.
Not yet.
It's faster. In many ways, it's lighter weight. There's like less total download. If you click through to a website and you download all the JavaScript and you see all the, these ads pop up. So I think, again, dynamic category, Ahava. We don't know for sure, but yeah, I think every day probably a million people realize that like AI is a better place to go to get a quick answer, or AI is a better place to go to do research on a provider. It's great for that.
Yeah, so I don't know that it's the better place to go for a quick answer. I think it's the best place to go for a complicated answer, actually, like a multiple query search, right? Like, how do I go from this place to this place? Find me a hotel that's there.
Mm-hmm.
I have hip pain. How do I find a doctor within 50 miles of my house that can see me next week? And I just don't think the technology and the data layers are there yet to support those multi-query searches. That's what I think we're going towards, and I'm not sure we're there quite yet. What I also worry about is the fact that AI is wrong a lot of the time. Like I asked it to find me a hotel someplace for one night, and it gave me 7 hotels, and not one of them had a vacancy for that night. Like,
yep,
that's
makes
a form
sense.
of misinformation right there. You know what I mean? So that's the other part that I'm sort of interested to see how user behaviors adapt to this.
Will Reynolds did a great presentation about this, where his example was like, I want a minivan for under $60,000 with a third row seat that gets this kind of mileage. You can't query Google for that.
No.
But your hotel example, if you're looking to retrieve information, like people still go to Google for like reviews and stuff. Like you're trying to get a specific thing, like hotels that have vacancy. AI is not really appropriate. It's generative. It's not retrieving any, specific information.
Yeah, correct. It's just fancy math that predicts the next most likely word, which sometimes isn't the right most likely word. What tool in AI are you using right now that's really like just jazzing you up?
I don't use that many tools. I use a ChatGPT Plus account. I use sometimes Descript. Our team uses Notebook LM a lot. My new favorite tool, though, is WhisperFlow, which is a speech-to-text feature where I think computers do this naturally, but I wasn't using it much. Hold down the function key and then just start talking to AI and give it way more information than you would have typed had you been just using a keyboard. I'm writing very detailed sort of prompts or asking AI to write prompts for me using paragraphs of text that I'm just speaking out loud. WhisperFlow is a way to get much better responses from AI because you're giving it much more language because you just get to talk to it.
Do you worry about AI?
I do. I worry about the job implications. I worry that there's detractors that aren't leveling up their skills fast enough. I worry about those big categories of jobs where AI is just completely transforming how that work is done. I think that it's going to happen a bit more slowly than people predict because we're talking about not just a change in technology, but a change in culture. Culture doesn't change that fast. So There's years, but it's not much more than that. So I think now is the time to take accountability for your own skill set. Don't wait for someone to train you. Research, experiment, test, try new things, because the better you are at these tools, if you want to stay in marketing, the more likely you are to, to be a useful, productive, valuable person to a brand or an agency.
Yeah, it's interesting what you say about the jobs. I've always been very positive about these kind of things. Like, I just think some jobs will go away and new jobs will be created in order to manage the things that people are now going to have to do with AI. I know for myself, like, I can't even use self-checkout at Target without somebody coming to help me.
I'm the same. It's like, oh, I bought a piece of produce. I gotta weigh this. Is this gonna work?
Why isn't this bar working? It's just not
Beep,
scanning.
beep,
Man,
beep. Try it again.
you can't leave the store with something you didn't pay for. I'm trying to pay for.
I tried.
Look at your video cameras, they're up there. And what's exciting you right now about marketing in general? And you know that you do work in the healthcare space as well. Anything that like has caught your fancy or made you think this is exciting, we should be thinking about this more?
Well, healthcare specifically, it's a high trust decision. So I still love video and personal anecdotes and stories, and the physician telling why, giving their why. Generally about marketing, I'm very interested right now in the offline marketing tactics. You and I see each other every year in Boston. Like, be part of a community, get active out there, like
Yeah.
collaborate. Um, I love the really high touch formats, and that, if you're worried about AI writing, that's crushing all of us, just get out of the water. That you can miss that wave. Hit the record button. Do what we're doing now. It's way more fun anyway.
Well, it's interesting about AI writing. I think there was definitely a period of time where I was like, is this just going to go away? And you know how I feel about that, because writing is probably one of the most important things to me in the world. That's how my whole life I see it, through the eyes of a writer. But what I found is that it's very impressive, but it's not great. That's what I really thought about it. The more and more I use it and I work with it, I think human writers are just better. They're just smarter. And we have a great story about that, where we did marketing for a sexual addiction center. And the writer interviewed the program manager who deals with the people who come in to get this treatment. And he explained to her that the way that people search for these issues is very different than what the keyword research showed her. And so she completely changed the way that she wrote about this. And their census went up and they got to almost capacity within 6 months. And one of the things I always say about that is that that's empathy. And no machine has gotten there yet, even though it seems like empathy. I told it, I recently had a family member diagnosed with cancer. I'm so sorry to hear that. That's programmed empathy. That's not real empathy. And so I think that if you want to stand out and you want to have great content, whether it's written or video or pictures, whatever it is, the human element, particularly, like you said, in a high trust place like healthcare, is incredibly important. But I think anything that I'm going to spend probably more than $75, $100 on, I'm going to do a little bit of research. I'm going to want to find out a little bit. If it's a new purchase, obviously not going to the grocery store. So I think it's important for people to be realistic. I think exactly what you said is right. Experiment. You wrote a great article that really made me push my own skills. The one where you talked about like the different skill set, like you moved
Oh yeah.
notch. An article about that really made me be like, okay, make.com, baby. We're going to become friends. Figure it out. And then like feeding, I also have ChatGPT Plus. I also like Claude. I pay for that. Give me prompts that will help me make this process better. Just asking it to teach you how to use it better. I mean,
huge breakthrough.
My printer won't do that. So solve the printer problem.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't use AI to write. I don't use AI to write. I do not. I write everything. I write every word by hand. I use it to get unstuck sometimes, or to help me pick a word sometimes. But my favorite use case is to use it to find gaps. So if you give it a thing that you wrote and you say, here's my target audience, here's what they care about, here's what the story in their life. What's the most important thing to them that's missing from this piece? Interesting. I might disregard a bunch of the ideas, but AI for gap analysis, AI for audits, AI as a final checkup, like a pumped up Grammarly. It's great. It's great. Yeah. I do it all the time.
Yeah, it is great. I'll tell you one use case that we have for it that's exactly like you just said. So we interview stakeholders, medical experts, that kind of thing, and then we'll feed the transcript of the interview against the finished piece and say, is there anything strategic that came up here that we didn't miss for this particular target audience and this strategic reason? And that it's just so great at that. It's just a really cool second set of eyes. Or did the doctor or the stakeholder mention something that we could use in a different piece of content? So that's another use case. And I think the most important thing is what we're doing right now, which is marketers need to talk to each other about how they're using it, because that's how we build best practices. That's how we build trust in the tool. That's how we educate each other to stay ahead of the curve and invent the future, as people like to say. So
absolutely. I love these conversations, and trading use cases like a neighbor trades a cup of sugar. It's
exactly.
I have friends who, we reach out to each other. Do you have a prompt for this? It's just amazing how fast you can learn.
Yeah, it is. It really is. Andy, how can people find you?
Orbitmedia.com is where you can learn everything about the company. We're a web development and website optimization company that focuses on mid-market brands. We build B2B lead gen websites. I'm very active on LinkedIn, though. That's probably my best network, and you can connect with me there. Skip the follow button, find the connect button, and then say that you listen to this, and we can message each other.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me, Andy. Thanks to the viewers for joining in. I hope you got your burning questions answered. If you have more burning questions, please put them in the comments or email me at ahava.leaptag@ahamediagroup.com. See you next time.